We found that with Norengo playing against Obey, it was interesting because that lack of information is crucial to bans. And a lot of people don't know what to ban because they don't know the team all that well.
Well, I mean, the ban phase is also still relatively new. Think
fair.
about it.
That's very fair.
So, I mean, like, give it enough time. I figured by the next Invitational, I think people will really have it down pat. You know, but we still got that gap. We've got a little bit of a gap.
Really big hole not coming up.
So yeah, Thermite being banned. We've talked about this before. Thermite on Border, or the lack thereof. Whenever he gets banned, this map kind of devolves. Not in a bad way, but it becomes a little bit more of a frag fest, a little bit more of a camping deal for the defenders, and it becomes, yes, very much so, a defense-sided map. So we will likely see that come into play here, thanks to Evil Geniuses banning the Thermite. They will also follow it up with a Mira ban, an interesting pair to get rid of. Lion and Pulse from their opponents. The Pulse making a lot of sense considering Troy is on EG.
Also a big Pulse map.
Also a big Pulse map, just in general. And the Lion as well. If you just don't want to play against them, it makes sense no matter who you're going up against.
Yeah, these bans make an awful lot of sense when you look at, you know, the teams here in general. You know, Thermite is almost always a must ban on this map.
Well, I mean,
Mira is pretty close to a must ban on this map as well, so we found.
He's kind of a he's an interesting ban on Border because you can not ban him, but also if you do not ban him, then you're dealing with just so much openness on the defense that it becomes exceedingly hard to hold. And it doesn't really matter what site we're talking about here. Armory is, I think, the most affected by it, but every single site on Border is influenced by a Thermite, and not having him means that Evil Geniuses are going to have likely a very good time on this first half. However, they will actually need to have that good time. If Element Mystic is fluent in attacking Border without a Thermite, then they can get 2-3 rounds maybe on this first half, and if they do get 2-3 rounds, then it's likely that EG will struggle going into the second half.
I mean, it benefits EG because EG doesn't play Thermite ever, right?
They very rarely do.
They almost never run a Thermite.
I think
it's usually a Hibana. So for them to ban Thermite, it works perfectly for them because they make it work no matter what.
Absolutely. It's something that I think SK were kind of the pioneers of banning Thermite on Border. They were the first ones to be like, hey, what if there's no Thermite though? And yeah, they managed to make it really work for them, and it looks like EG is totally on board with that as well now. I really like the mentality. It's basically like creating your own little pocket meta within the game. So, and if you practice it thoroughly like EG does, as you just explained, then yeah, I can put you in a very distinct edge over your opponent.
So you can see here they're playing at Ella on the reinforced wall inside of security. Drones being set up. We saw another drone as well from Element Mystic being positioned.
Oh, whoops!
Yeah, that might have been a couple missed throws. We saw that there was also a drone that was positioned up in server room downstairs on top of that bucket, and that's of course to try and figure out where the roamers are. So already for Element Mystic, impressed with the drone economy in the fact that they're trying to stash them in positions where you can always have that surveillance. A lot of teams will often forego that and just recklessly toss their drones in without really thinking too much about where the drones go.
Having those pre-placed, predetermined ones are good, and it can help you with things like getting a grenade kill from below. Unfortunately, if your sledge misses the grenade, then it really doesn't matter if you have a drone on your opponent. And it will prompt the Ella of Necrox to fall off of CCTV back into sight. A little bit of time wasted there for the defense, so good job. But no kill for Element Mystic.
I can't tell if they spotted the Valkyrie cams with the IQ or what gadget in particular it was that they saw, but if those were 2 Valk cams that they were just able to take out, that's huge for the usage of IQ's gadget. And we say this often, speaking of IQ, Necrox is first to fall, but NVK will be there to take out Hetty, and that'll be EG and Element Mystic both losing 1 apiece. We say this a lot. I lost my train of thought.
Well,
It happens.
I'm sure we do say it a lot,
It
but
happens. We say it a lot.
point of interest here,
We say it a lot.
we've got a 4 versus 4 with a minute left.
Right.
And this is on the very first round, so you can see that both teams are a little bit uncertain of their opponents. They don't know where to put the pressure, and they don't know where they can alleviate some pressure from their own squad. Twitch drone looking for the Yokai drone, and unfortunately the Twitch comes out below, so that's not going to help Element Mystic very much. But the information has been called out. BC known to be in the B site, stuffed away in a corner. And because of that, the Buck Grenade from Sweet Black will get the down, but no final kill. He will eventually spot the leg and secure that. But look at that, 15 seconds left. And Evil Geniuses, while at a man disadvantage, still only have to delay for oh so very long. Young with a nice easy down onto Sweet Black as he pushes into B. Elio gets NVK. Young, though, gets a second. What a shot onto the IQ, and turns around to get the Twitch, who's attempting to pick up his teammate. Young has just put it into a 1-on-2. What a play from the smoke, and NV Taylor, one of the stars of Element Mystic, the final alive in this first round, and he will have to win against Young and Canadian. A dream team. Doesn't watch for the rotation in the hallway, and Canadian comes from behind. Easy kill, and checking his crouch button just to be sure that he's won the round. Young will go for the disable of the defuse. EG take round number 1.
What grace and what elegance.
Mm-hmm.
You say a lot of things about Evil Geniuses. They are obviously very courteous winners.
Yes.
And that'll be the first round going to EG.
They are definitely gracious in victory. Now, yeah. So the first round, it looked like Element Mystic could have taken it. They had established a pretty good amount of control. They had that diffuse plant. NV Taylor was in a clutch position, but unfortunately he just did not check the rotation that the defenders had opened into the CCTV wall to hallway. So a little bit of an oversight there from NV Taylor. I would have liked to see maybe a drone on that position, one of his dead teammates able to call, you know. I wanted that clutch to happen. You know, you talk about NV Taylor, he's one of the the biggest names in the APAC region, and you expect these things from him, but you're also dealing with Young and Canadian, two of the biggest names in Rainbow Six in general. So I guess it's just not to be. And a nice try though from Element. The overall strategy was pretty standard, but it didn't work out.
Attackers need to locate and defuse.
So Element Mystic ends up squandering the lead that they had going into that round in terms of man count. Pretty incredible. It was a 4v2 that went completely the other way. And yeah, a lot of that lays at the feet of Young and how he played.
Yeah.
Exemplary job and very clutch. I feel like we talk about it almost every single time Evil Geniuses plays. But Young so consistently gets passed over for clutchest player, best player, etc. Largely because he's playing on a team of people who are all also equally skilled players, but I feel like Young sometimes just doesn't get the praise that he deserves for the level of play that he brings to the team.
The way that he plays is very deceptive. You don't really notice how good he is because the way he gets results is just different from other people. I remember when way back, I remember when we were thinking about picking up Young in like the beginning of the scene, and there was a lot of doubt, you know, surrounding him as a player. But you know, as soon as you actually get to see him play, you quickly, like in firsthand, like right next to him, shoulder to shoulder, you get to realize, yeah, no, he's easily one of the best players in North America, without question. And that's from personal experience, I can tell you.
So, with Evil Geniuses prevailing up top, they'll head back down, or they'll head down rather, to Workshop, and Necroc's getting very close actually to a kill this early on, and that appears to be the Hibana, which would be very damning for Element Mystic, especially if your Hibana is engaging in opening frags. Just not a position with that much utility on board that you really, really want.
You can't be losing your only possible hard destructor early on. Nor can you be losing those Twitch drones. Not ideal. Of course, you know, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, Mira was banned. So I'm also not sure why we're seeing a Twitch in the first place. Usually you only see Twitch if the Mira's there. Oni-chan, though, very early kill onto Canadian. Getting a little bit too aggressive, I have to say there, peeking onto the ventilation balcony. Very dangerous angle to fight.
Really not advisable what happened there. I mean, and The SMG-12 giveth, the SMG-12 taketh away, and certainly with how little of Ying was exposed, you would expect maybe to land a headshot off that. Well, that would not be the case. Though, to be fair, it's not that much utility that's taken away from Evil Geniuses. They lose their probably best roamer, outside of maybe Necrox, but other than that, Necrox is Ella. But outside of that, really not that bad. Oh, NVK, a nice shot on Naoni-chan. And you can hear Candela's rattling off in the background. So, ideally, the execute will happen sometime soon, but it might just be used at the moment to try and get a clear or two. Of course, Element Mystic is spending a lot of time trying to clear out upstairs in Armory without actually being able to assert control over the site. Of course, the way that this works is that typically you need that control so that you can take over the hatches, and you still have Sweet Black going on, and as the Hibana in case they need that hard destruction talent.
Sweet Black gonna get MVK from above, using that vertical pressure to his team's advantage. BC is also very lit up, so Evil Genius is kind of back up against a wall. As Hetty gets BC, it's just Young and Necrox in a 2 versus 4. Make that a 2 versus 1 as they shred through Element Mystic, leaving Sweet Black the final attacker, and on such low HP, he's just not able to get into the building. Young ready to dispatch him, and Evil Geniuses will put 2 rounds together.
What clutch abilities from this team right now. Find themselves 2 rounds in a row and 2v4s, and they win both of them.
Very impressive.
Not necessarily sure how sustainable that is, but right now it's working, so I guess maybe don't fully question it. But
it seems to be working pretty decisively as well. I never, you know, the thing is, when it gets into that 2 versus 4 against Evil Geniuses, I'm not thinking to myself, oh, Element Mystic, they have that control. They have, you know, they have the advantage. They're going to get the win. I'm thinking to myself, there's still 2 EG players alive.
Right.
They could easily take this. Now, we'll see if they're able to keep that going. As you say, it usually is, I think, kind of an unsustainable sort of mentality to put that much pressure on 2 people. But it's entirely possible that the rest of Evil Geniuses will get a little bit more of an advantage in the earlier stages of these future rounds. We'll find out. As they go on to yet another defense, this time Customs. As they were successful in Armory and Ventilation, they need to mix it up to a 3rd site. And Customs, the typical 3rd site for Border.
Of course, Customs being made that much more difficult to hold now without a Mira, which was banned by Evil Geniuses, so they don't have that available to them.
I mean, I think historically, when Custom started becoming a site that people played a lot, Mira was essential. But we've been seeing a lot of teams go there without a Mira window, even when they can have one. They'll just avoid it entirely, or forego it at least. And they seem to fare all right. I think as long as the understanding is there, you can pull it off. And I think what Mira's great at doing is establishing understanding of how you need to defend a site. Yeah, so well, we'll see. I think without her, EG should be able to make this work.
Going for a run out here, NVK trying to get off a nice spawn peek. We saw spawn peek actually from Mocket, if I remember correctly. It was enemy. Spawn peeked G2 in the previous matchup. And
I didn't see it.
We also saw Waka spawn peek in the match against Obey too. You definitely did.
Yeah.
You were there for that.
I was there for that. And it was, you know, sometimes that aggression can really pay off. On other times, it can cost your team a player.
It's a huge gamble. It always is, right? There's, you know, you might end up in an opportunity where you can get some breathing room. There was a man that got spawn peeked for Obey, and it might have had an impact on his performance in that matchup. You can't really tell. It's definitely something that doesn't happen all that often. If you try to do it too much, it's very easy to see it coming. You know, it's telegraphed usually, and then you can predict and deal with it.
Speaking of dealing with it, EG holding on to Archives right now and denying the push from Ventilation Balcony. Canadian's actually going to fall back, leaving Young to hold solo, but he will eventually be able to fall back as well. He used his Nitro Cell, I think, just now to open up the drop down, so a little bit of a miscommunication there. Likely that Necrox probably should have opened that drop earlier. However, it shouldn't cost EG too much. The main thing you could see that they're prioritizing is wasting time. The roamers in the armory are not essential to the site hold, and NVK and Necrox are. Holding on to CCTV is paramount. As soon as they lose it, it becomes much harder to hold the site.
You can see about 90 seconds has passed, and I think Element Mystic right now are just a bit lost as to what to do next. They haven't really been able to outmuscle EG off of any positions in a real possibility, though. Envy Taylor gets very close to getting a kill, but it's Nelio who's going to grab Necrox, and that was a good joint effort from both the Zofia and the Twitch. NVK circling the stairs, looked like he was possibly going to get a peek onto Nelio, but no. NVK is able to get away relatively unscathed. Zoni-chan looks towards the stock room, and detention, of course, being both bandited as well as reinforced, means that they're going to need to take care of those bandit wires so that Hibana can do the job she needs to. But she's at the top of main stairs right now, probably just going to be more preoccupied with getting maybe a hatch if she still has X-Kairos left after using the wall in CCTV. But look at this, Canadian's going to come in. No, he's not going to get anything. Gets shut down by Hetty, and that was, once again, finding ourselves with the opening salvo going strongly in favor of Element Mystic.
Young's going to respond, though, immediately onto Hetty, the sledge peeking into those custom drop downs. And 23 seconds left. What is going on here? Envy Taylor will get NVK. Very important frag. Young, though, still alive. He's been the clutch player for so many rounds. And BC is going to get it down onto the Hibana. Young gets another onto Oni-chan, and BC will finish off his prey. A second onto Sweet Black, leaving just Envy Taylor in a 1 versus 2. And he's going to miss the headshot onto the bandit. And BC playing that corner to perfection will get the final kill. Evil Geniuses 3 in a row. And it's been the same story every time. Early lead that Element Mystic just cannot lock out.
They're pretty incredible, the staying power that EG currently has. Element Mystic is doing a lot of drone work, making sure that they're trying to be as methodical as possible in their pushes. And you can see that, you know, I said they were a little lost last time around. They made an adaptation with about a minute to go, made a more concerted effort to push the site after they were able to blow open the wall. Just underneath 90 or L or whatever you choose to call it, just underneath the camera inside of the hallway.
Oh, L, yeah, the main hallway.
Yes, right under the camera, where they were able to open up the wall and into security there. And then their opening couple bursts when they attack the site has been great, but it's the mid to late round like transition after they start their execute that is just falling behind so much. And I mean, I said that after 2 rounds that this is not sustainable for Evil Geniuses, but they are halfway to victory in match number 1. And I mean, it's working so far. Of course, Element Mystic taking a tactical timeout. And
that's for, I think, with good reason in this situation where your team is coming so close to victory, but just unable every single time to finally secure it. You can see Summer Rain really instilling in his team that they need to start being a little bit more calculated in their movements, start getting a little bit more ferocious in their final executions, and I'm sure he's giving them some pointers to do just that. Now, Armory Lockers archives for Evil Geniuses, they've gone full circle. A successful Armory hold, ventilation hold, and finally a customs hold means that they can go back to their original site, Armory. And they're going to be very comfortable there, I'm sure. A 6-pick off of a Legion onto a Valkyrie, I like that. It means that the attackers aren't going to automatically 6-pick into an IQ to counter your Valkyrie. So you have a little bit of leeway there, and hopefully Mystic will not anticipate that, or at least hopefully for Evil Genius, Mystic will not anticipate that.
This is something we've seen, I guess, a rise in play of as of late, which is the Supernova on the Echo. A bit of a, well, for a second there, the shot from BC didn't really seem to do the job that he wanted on the wall, and then smoke being brought with impact.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need more soft destruction, and clearly Evil Geniuses has a lot of stuff they want to open right now. You know, we always talk about how like a lot of these things are two-way streets, but if you construct your site and adjacent rooms to the point at which it's so much different than from the original thing, then you can create kind of an environment that is hard for your opponents to interpret and can allow you a lot more maneuverability. It's the same sort of mentality as like banning Thermite and then practicing without a Thermite on border.
Right. So round number 4 getting underway, and Evil Geniuses can go back upstairs to Armory, and that's exactly what they're going to do. I'm going to be very curious to see what Element Mystic does for the push here. They've already surveyed that there's a lot of destruction on the floor/ceiling inside of vents, so they know that they can't just freely push in and try to provoke anybody playing on the wall of Armory. However, if you notice, absent from Evil Genius's lineup, Mute or a Bandit. So they don't really have to worry about anything that could possibly be preventing them from taking that wall with the Hibana. You can hear the first round of X-Karos is going to get unleashed, likely on the Armory wall. That would be my best guess. And that does appear to be it. You see Necrox playing around the bomb tight just by Sandwich. He's joined by the smoke as well. And they've managed to open up some of that wall as NV Taylor there taking point.
Necrox going to be the first point of contact on this Armory push. Still half of the round, Element Mystic has been very assertive on this take. NVK looking for a potential flank through the main hallway. You see, they've got the rotations that EG established earlier. There's pressure being applied from ventilation as well. Element's trying to keep a third dimension in this strategy and have more than just a Armory wall take as an option.
Did sound like a Candela is getting tossed in from Oni-chan. NV Taylor is in. Smoke grade will go out. And then there go the Candelas. Diffuser has been dropped though. Weren't able to get it down, and Young will just miss his tracking. Necrox at any moment can peek out. You hear Oni-chan doing great work.
What?
Oh, how did you get that kill with Nelio jumping in? It's a 5v2, a situation EG has found themselves in all too often, but NVK in bad shape. He'll manage to come out unscathed as Nelio will fall inside of CCTV. BC working the best he can with his yokai drone, but it's Hetty watching the flank. NVK unable to rotate, and finally, Element Mystic will not end up losing a 5v2 or a 4v2, and they'll get their first round.
The biggest thing there is that Mystic were able to get control along with their kills. Instead of just getting some kills off of the site and starting to push in, they actually had what they needed to go for a push, which was that Armory control. And a big reason for that, in my opinion, is that EG were playing pretty far out from the Armory wall itself. You saw Young was playing inside of the small office, but he was missing a lot of shots. He ultimately was dispatched pretty easily. He did not manage to stall for very long, and then there was no real follow-up from EG other than a couple yokai drones, which is not enough to stop people pushing in through your A wall.
I wonder how much of that possibly could have been winnable based on BC's Supernova versus the MP5K.
That's a big question, isn't it? Because it's a long angle.
It's a long angle, and if he's going to hold the bomb behind B and look all the way down to half wall, I mean, he was trying to do that with the Bearing 9. You know how accurate BC is. You know how good he is at landing his shots. If he's running that MP5K, I honestly think that there's a very strong possibility that, you know, he's able to maybe not clutch it because it was a 1v4, but at least
do some damage.
Maybe do some damage and put it in a position where NVK didn't have to close that gap as quickly as he did.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. Like, he can, from the B bomb, you can stop people pushing into A. You can't prevent them from planting on default, but that's what your yokai drones are for. Right. And if the rest of the attackers are going to be pushing around the corner into lockers, then yeah, that is a lot of potential for some kills there. And we've been seeing that. I want to say we have been seeing that a lot. Every time Echo brings that shotgun, it always bounces back to, like, imagine if the Echo was using an MP5 right now. Imagine how much damage he could be doing with that MP5. Now you say that, and you can easily point a finger at the rest of EG and be like, well, these guys should have held their thing in the first place. And that's true. You know, Young really should have been doing more damage from small office. He played it poorly. It happens. But still, you know, you gotta think about the layers. Now, it's going to be another Armory defense here from Evil Geniuses, but this is the last defense they will have for the first half.
One thing that Element Mystic has been doing really well is they've been able to force Evil Geniuses into, like, trapping them, essentially force them into the confinements that they want, which I think is what you touched upon, is that not only did they get the kills, but they also took the control.
Yep.
But a lot of times EG manages to somehow punch their way out, and it's perplexing that for some reason Element Mystic's transition into a post plant, or even in the dying seconds of a round, is so woefully under-equipped to deal with EG, even though you're doubled up in numbers.
I think it's, think about it like this. Evil Geniuses are someone trying not to let another person in through their door. They're both starting at the same point on either side of that door. Evil Geniuses go to close the door, and if Element Mystic don't have a foot in the door yet, then it's not going to get in there at all. But if they get even just a little bit in there, they can make it work. And Evil Geniuses are going to be, if they have the control, they are going to be able to, like you say, they're going to be able to throw those counter punches, and they're going to be able to fight back for their man advantage. But if Element Mystic manage to get their way in through the A wall, they deny the rotation, they can get that plant, they can get that win.
I have a feeling Canadian is going to try to lob a C4 up over the balcony as he's playing below. It depends on where he is. He's disappeared now. He looks like he might be coming through east stairs. But he's still working his cameras. No, he's still situated down in customs, just waiting underneath the plant. But yeah, he could possibly go for a C4 here, depending on what he's going to do, and looking just to make sure. Very curious to know if he's going to be able to make this work. That's exactly what he's going to do.
It's a hard one.
C4 goes up, and he misses. Oh, no, not close enough. A Nitro Cell will go out from NVK, though, and we'll find Oni-chan. So at least one explosive will hit its mark. Young taking out Sweet Black as Hetty is able to trade it off. That's Canadian trying to get back to the site. He'll be blocked out. Phone calls in amidst the shroud of smoke right now. The defuse plant will be successful, but it's EG in a retake situation of their own. And a 2v4, Envy Taylor is next up, and Neilio is last man standing with diffuser at the quarter mark. Neilio will hit a Goo Mine, and he will just feed himself to EG, and they will take the first half 4-1. I'm not certain. Okay, well, I'm not certain what's going on, but EG looking pretty decent through the first split. 4-1, only 2 rounds away. And Element Mystic are really struggling in these late round changes.
You can see on the faces of EG, this is just business as usual to them. At least that's the way, the air they're kind of giving off. Seems still focused, but they've got such a decisive lead, 4-1. That is a good way to end a half. It was the same way that we've seen a number of times actually today. For example, in the Obey versus Norengo match, we had Obey ending their first half of Oregon 4-1. They almost let that slip away. So there's still chance for Element Mystic to start their comeback. Also very important to note, because Element banned that Thermite, they are betting heavy on the defensive side. So now that they're able to make that transition, they might be able to start getting the rounds. If we're thinking about this in a purely defensive-sided border situation, and that's fair to say, given the attackers that aren't with us, then this is actually a decent first half for Element Mystic, and they could completely lock out this second half. However unlikely that is, it's very there's potential.
Yeah, that's the one thing that is really interesting to play into is how well the side swings work and how operator bans and the way teams play, because just at face value, maybe banning a pulse isn't a debilitating thing for one team, but banning a pulse against another team could possibly swing the map from attacker side to defender side, depending on the team and what composition they run with. It actually does look like we're going to get a bit of an interesting operator up on the board, and Alibi will make her first appearance today. She was actually banned by Fnatic against NIP in the previous matchup, and that stands to reason because we have seen Alibi get picked by NIP quite often in Pro League.
Yeah, some teams really do like their Alibi. She's a pretty powerful operator as an individual but you tend to have to sacrifice a lot of utility to bring her, but she doesn't actually offer any direct utility to the team. She's more of a fragging op, more kind of like Vigil, for example. And some teams prefer their Alibi, some teams prefer their Vigil. I think it mostly comes down to individual preference. But yeah, it's interesting. When I first saw these bans, I actually thought that Evil Geniuses banned Thermite and Mira, and that Lion and Pulse were banned by Element Mystic. Like, that was my first impression.
That is actually correct. The
overlay
at the top is actually backwards.
It was backwards? Okay, because
Evil Genius was banned.
I was so confused for a bit. I was like, that's so weird. It just doesn't make any sense.
Why are EG banning 2 of their best operators? That doesn't make any sense.
But yes, the way that things are playing out, you have freedom to pick onto operators like Alibi. And Vigil, while useful, I don't think is all that much on a map like Border. It's not really favoring the roamers. Speaking of roamers, Envy Taylor, early easy kill onto MVK. I'd like to see where that happened. Was it the balcony or East Stairs maybe? I'm guessing it was probably at the top of East Stairs, considering that's where a lot of EG are pushing in right now.
Envy Taylor's on fire right now.
He will get a second one. Again, I'm not unsure as to where it's happening, but he got a second kill.
One of the things that a lot of people might not know about is now Oni-chan clobbers Necrox. BC will finally get the first kill for EG. Lots of action in the first minute here, and it's East
What is
Stairs.
this?
Now Sweet Black is just going to wander right in. My, that's going to leave Canadian as Ash crouch walking his way through customs in a very easily winnable 1v4, of course, with over half of the round to go.
Yeah, we've seen Canadian win these.
I was going to mention that one of the interesting things is you used to be able to spectate dead bodies. So let's say you wanted to spectate Oni-chan, you could, and it would take you to where
Can you not do that anymore?
You're not allowed to do that anymore.
Really?
They have removed it from spectating, in case anybody is curious, yes. So it's very difficult sometimes to figure out when action happens. And a great read now is Neilio at the top of the stairs. They'll finish off Canadian, and that's the last member of EG who wanders his way up towards the site. A great round from Element Mystic.
They needed that for the first round of the second half.
Absolutely.
And their ability to do it so aggressively. When you don't have a thermite on attack, the defense should automatically say to themselves, okay, let's start playing it slow. Let's be very defensive. But Mystic threw that mentality out the window. They're just like, hey, stack up on East Stairs. Envy Taylor got the first 2 kills at the top of East Stairs. Then there was follow-up from his teammates forcing out, just rushing into East Stairs, and a complete cascade in Element Mystic's favor. So this is what we were talking about earlier. I'm very certain that Element Mystic are much more comfortable on the defensive side.
There's quite an explosion of sound behind us. Probably something going on from the other game, would be my suspicion.
I imagine it's something very exciting happening.
The best part and also simultaneous worst part of group stages is it's the best that there's every game being broadcasted. The worst is that I don't get to watch all of it.
Yeah, well, we won't be able to usually check the VODs until we go home tonight, or go to the hotel tonight, or maybe even after the event entirely. I mean, hopefully we'll be informed at some point, Parker. Now,
well, we've been trying to update people as info has.
Yeah,
info is of course coming in.
Whenever we get the info, we'll relay it to you. But here we go. Element Mystic, another defense, their second ever, and they are going to Ventilation Workshop, of course. This is Border after all. But you can see they're investing very heavily into that top floor, which is typical, but it seems like they might be putting a little bit more emphasis upstairs than usual. We'll find out. They do have the castle as well to add to the fortification of the top floor. Valkyrie cams going out, and there is no IQ on Evil Genius's side, so they're not going to be able to hunt down those Valkyrie cams. They're going to have to kind of go at it raw, see if they can deny the information.
Lots of utility available as well. I think that's important to note for the defense here. The only real sample size we have last round for Element Mystic was all the action took place when Envy Taylor just decided to start killing everybody as Legion, and I'm not exactly certain in what position they were getting killed from, whether they were trying to push in through break room or...
East Stairs. You saw the corpses when they went top down.
That is right. So he's just able to hold that position, which... Good on him for being able to do that, though strange that an ACOG wouldn't be positioned there to possibly outmuscle him. Now Oni-chan downstairs in customs.
Located by attackers.
What would you like to say?
Well, I was just going to say, I think there was an ACOG. There was a Blackbeard with an ACOG, and he just somehow lost the fight.
Yeah, just, not ideal.
Yeah, I think it was Young, but there were also a couple other players with, but they were all just challenging from East Stairs onto CCTV. But that was last round. Here we are this round. And you can see EG pushing their way in through offices and CCTV.
Oni-chan right now playing inside of the main lobby, looking towards bathroom. Castle strats, they did not castle off of bathroom doorway. They instead opting to castle off tellers downstairs in place of it. An interesting position, and I don't know how you feel about castling off the teller's doorway because you can just always vault through the windows.
Yeah, so the reason you do that is actually just to allow for freedom of movement within the hallway. Yeah, you can vault through the windows, but you know the attackers have to open up that wall then if they want to actually deny hallway rotation. And they've done that. You can see that EG is on top of it, and Young is hitting his shots here. BC will follow that up as well. So 2 kills for Evil Geniuses, and Element Mystic still have a chance here, but they've got to hold out for 50 seconds, and as BC gets another one, it's looking worse and worse.
Phone calls as Oni-chan will have to stop and silence his phone. Hetty playing in the main doorway of Border. Oni-chan trying to play around the door inside a bathroom, but he's going to get flashed and pushed. Marks from the Valkyrie camera, but he's going to have to reload as he's running out of ammo. He'll break the Blackbeard shield, get 2! He needs to finish off. They have to finish off BC, but can't do it as Necrox was able to down 1, and NVK jumps in to give EG match point on Border.
Okay, I gotta say it. This is unfortunate. Did you see that? That was panic, and you could feel it resonating off that Valkyrie. That Valkyrie just all over him. He was a little bit ahead of himself. He wasn't he was trying to finish off his opponent. He wasn't trying to finish off his opponent. He was just not able to focus on one objective at a time. And that panic is through inexperience. As much as I hate to bring it up, that's what's going on right now. The pressure is getting to Element Mystic, and I don't say that randomly as a guess. I mean it's clear. You can read it from the way they're playing.
I mean it's one of those things where LAN is a nerve-wracking experience for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I certainly don't say that from experience. So I mean I'm glad that you can validate it. But I can say that it, even just being here casting at LAN is a different experience. I can't imagine that for the players when they have pressures on them. They have their orgs here with them as well. But overall, Element Mystic right now trailing. It could just be a map choice as well. This is one thing we don't know is how comfortable, how proficient are they on Border. We know and have so many matches to see that Evil Geniuses are very comfortable on this map. They have not always been successful on Border. In fact, they have lost it a number of times to teams such as G2, teams such as ENCE, etc. But the question is that how proficient is Element Mystic on it? Because EG right now is one map away from sending us to Oregon, which is another map that we know that EG plays an awful lot, though I would say Oregon is probably not EG's best map. In fact, at the Invitational, if you would recall, they started banning Oregon towards the end because they realized that teams could beat them on it, especially the team known as 1UP.
Yeah.
Known as Orgos, who is actually here.
Yeah, so they've never really been great at Oregon. I'm not sure what it is with EG. They've had good matches on Oregon, but if they ever go up against somebody who is sorry, not somebody, a team who is genuinely proficient at that map, then EG tends to struggle.
Right.
And I think it's been like that for a pretty long time. And I don't know if they're ever going to shake that mentality. So it's entirely possible that Mystic is going to be able to seize that opportunity and put us onto map 3. That, of course, assuming Element Mystic loses this first map, which still might not happen.
Now, do bear in mind that they used their tactical timeout after the 3rd round, at which point they found themselves down 3-0, and now it hasn't... I mean, they've seen some more success since then. They've lost 2 rounds, they've won 2 rounds, so it's been an even split. Canadian's going to start things off by finding and taking out NV Taylor. The Legion will be no more inside of CCTV. A long open sight line right now as both NVK and Young are going to try to double up here, and Young should be able to see the Jaeger, but they'll do a ring around the Rosie as you can hear the big Blackbeard's DMR going off, and Sweet Black getting probably wrong calls or trying to hear for a push, but no, it's NVK who's able to get that, and it's EG right now in the driver's seat. We've just eclipsed the halfway mark on match point here on this round, which would put Evil Geniuses up 1-0 if they succeed.
And they're just about to. With 1 minute left, a 3 versus 5. Make that 4 versus 3. Oni-chan trying to equalize. Young, though, has him trapped. And it should be a fairly easy kill for Young. And Canadian's going to come up from behind just in case. But Young finishes off Oni-chan as he peeks into his opponent, leaving just Hetty and Nelio. 50 seconds left. So not exactly an easy round for a 2 versus 4. Usually you want time pressure to be on your side as a defender, but it's not going to be so here. Vertical pressure, though, on the side of the attackers. Nelio is trying to fight back against that. Hetty eats a lot of bullets and goes down to 1 bullet's worth of HP. A near miss there through the wall. Canadian shuts down Hetty. Nelio into the hallway, but he's unable to get more than 1, and Evil Geniuses will take the first map of Border.
That was a dreadfully bad spot for Element Mystic to be in at the closing moments of that round, and I'm not entirely certain what exactly went wrong that time around with Element Mystic, but they continuously are looking in the wrong direction. Have you noticed this? Is that we saw it earlier? You know, even in the very first round, when the Hibana was watching the diffuser, just standing completely still in the middle of CCTV, nobody watching. Possibly, maybe had a flank drone, not entirely certain, but I mean, there was nobody there to really give that info